Okay, well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today for today's webinar on the top 3 apps for patient engagement. My name is Naveed Ahmad, and I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Caspio. I will be joined by my colleague, Ned Pajich, who is the Technical Evangelist at Caspio. So for today's agenda, we're going to talk about and give you an introduction to no-code application development, show you the top 3 apps and tools that you can build on Caspio's no-code platform. And we're going to show actual applications that you can build for your healthcare practice and increase patient engagement in your healthcare business. We'll leave some time at the end for question and answer. But overall, we hope that this is an exciting and fun webinar for you guys. And we want to make this interactive. So, please go over to the chat and say hi, drop comments, let us know where you're coming in from. And we're going to be answering and fielding questions kind of as the presentation goes along. So if you want to just drop something in the chat for us, we'll make sure to answer it at the end. With that, let's get started. So I wanted to first, we've got a lot of attendees coming from a lot of different parts of the country, and people have some different experiences and backgrounds. So I wanted to do a quick poll and get an idea about how familiar are you with no-code apps to begin with. Okay, so it sounds like most of you out here know what no-code is or currently building. So I don't want to leave anybody out. So for the folks that still don't know and are still getting used to what no code is, basically no code is about building custom applications without writing code. So we know that there's traditional software development that gets expensive in terms of time and cost when it comes to developing. Then there are tools out there that may or may not be the right fit for what you're looking for. This serves as a good option. So building custom applications without writing code. This allows you to just bring your ideas faster, bring your ideas to life much faster. So with Caspio specifically, it's a visual application builder with point and click tools, powered by an integrated online database that works behind the scenes to handle all the maintenance and development. And lastly, and this is very key to Caspio, you're able to take your application that you built and embed it on any web property, as simple as embedding a YouTube video. So these components create the no-code platform and allow you to build and bring ideas to life faster. Now, obviously, there are some benefits of building with no code. And I did mention that you can bring your ideas to life faster, but as it comes to healthcare, we saw with the pandemic that there were not tools out there that could handle COVID-19 response when it came to vaccinations or its complexity. So no code also offers an ability to respond with agility to the ever-changing needs. Healthcare is one of those industries that's extremely dynamic, and being able to respond with digital solutions and applications becomes really, really critical. It also helps with no code to be able to minimize the burden of IT, because you're saving on development cost. You're allowing IT to focus more on bigger issues than building applications that can be built by citizen developers. And then overall, at the end of the day, this is about saving time and saving money. So no code can really, because of its flexibility, because of its ease of use, it allows you to build applications that can serve specific needs. So in healthcare, patients have all kinds of needs and all kinds of challenges and issues that need to be addressed. This allows you to focus and hone in on those. So now when we specifically talk about the patient journey, we're talking about the various applications that can be used at any different touch point for patients, whether that starts with the awareness phase of understanding what are the symptoms, what is the information out there that a patient can use and evaluate, and then go into consideration, acquisition, service, and loyalty. So at each of these touch points, there are applications that you can build to service these needs. So when a patient comes in and they need help, they're evaluating their symptoms. Then they want to be able to talk to a provider. Then they want to be able to make a appointment and schedule that and go through the patient intake process. They might find that it's easier and more convenient to talk to a provider via telehealth. And then finally, after all the service and handling of the care procedure has been taken care of, then patients being allowed to survey and respond back and give feedback to their care becomes a full loop to the entire patient journey. So these are the various digital touch points, and every journey is going to be complex depending on the healthcare vertical that you're specifically in, and specifically patients' needs. A little bit about Caspio before we start going into actual applications. Caspio has been around for 22 years. We've been innovating in this space. We were first mover in no code. And when it comes to healthcare, we've been HIPAA compliant since 2014. We have over 15,000 customers worldwide. We have customers in about 150 countries, and over 150 of those customers have been with us for more than 10 years. Some of the customers that we have in the healthcare space are some big names like UCLA, Kaiser, Emory, and just to give you a sample of the types of applications that our customers in the healthcare space have built are listed on the left-hand side. Patient portals, feedback surveys, clinical and data management, paperless workflows, pre-screening and intake processes. So the beauty in all of this is that you can really hone in on your specific journey for your patients and build specific unique tools that can help service those patients. So this is just a sampling of what those applications are. And before I hand it over to Ned, we're going to talk about specifically tools that you can use to help patient engagement. Those tools are around communication, information, being able to give feedback, allowing patients to be more involved in their path of care. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ned to show applications that you can build using Caspio.
Hey, thanks, Naveed. Let me know if I'm live, if you can see my screen. Thank you for that. Welcome, everyone. As Naveed mentioned, my name is Ned. I am a technical evangelist at Caspio. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Hopefully, I can share some of my Caspio knowledge with you so that you can go into Caspio and begin developing your own applications. The way I have my presentation set up today is in two parts. In part one, we're going to take a look at this live example of the application that I put together so that you can see how it can be used to improve patient engagement. And then in part two, we're going to log into Caspio, and I want you to see how simple it is to make modifications in the back end. And when you make those modifications, how it affects the front end. And at the same time, I'd like you to see how our customers get to that aha moment. That's how Caspio works. It's actually fairly simple and intuitive. Now, really quickly, before I give you a demo of this application, I just want to point out four things. Number one, this application is comprised of a lot of different functionality, and a lot of the functionality that you're about to see can serve as a standalone system. So if you have a need just to build a patient survey, if that's the extent of your needs, you can develop that in Caspio. Number two, all the sample data that you're about to see is fictitious data. There's no actual PHI on any of the screens. Number three, people often love to ask me, hey, Ned, how long does it take to develop something like that? The entire use case that you're going to see today took approximately 3 days. So hopefully, if you go through our training, you or somebody else on your staff, and you learn how to use the platform, you too will be able to deliver these applications in no amount of time, really. And number four, there's no possible way for me to show you everything that the Caspio platform has to offer in the limited time that I have. So if you'd like to see a deep dive and a more comprehensive overview of this patient portal, how it was developed, all the components, we are going to be hosting a live stream on our YouTube channel next month. I'm going to share that link in the chat window so that you can have that handy. You can bookmark it. And if you do attend a live stream from this webinar, say hello to me and let me know that you attended the webinar. So with that said, let's go and take a look at the application that I've developed. I do have a very simple landing page for patients to view the website for the health practice. We can log in as the patient, and we can also log in as the physician or the doctor. So we have two different portals, one for the patients and one for the physicians. I'm going to log in as the doctor first so that you can see the interface. And as soon as I log in as the physician, I'm able to see a holistic view of all the appointments across the board for all the patients. Some of the appointments, as you can see, have a video call link and some of them don't. The ones with the video call link allow us to connect using a video call. So once the patient joins in and the physician, we're able to have that conversation. The reason why we came up with this example is because, especially like the beginning of the pandemic and in the peak of the pandemic, we became inundated with requests to develop a telehealth to have these video calls. So I came up with a simple solution that when the appointment is booked using an appointment or using a form, what we're doing is we're sending the appointment ID via Zapier using no code, and then we send that information to daily.co. Daily.co is a HIPAA compliant video tool that allows us to create these rooms for our patients. And that's how we're able to, on the Caspio side, click on that link. And when you click on that link, so I'll use this one as an example, you're not going to be able to see it, but now both the patient and the doctor can join in and they can have that video call. The next thing we're going to look at is the patients. So here we can see a tabular report that shows me all the patient information. We can filter our patient info, and we can also drill into details and be able to see all the related information from all the other database tables. I can edit the patient profile if needed. I can also see the appointments for that patient. I can see all the prior visits where we track the vital signs, and we also see a combination chart that we can track metrics for the patient. We can also hone in on a specific metric if we wanted to. So it's in real time. We can show and hide elements based on my selection inside a legend. Directly underneath that, we can also see test results that belong to that patient. I can also submit a new test, and we can also send a message to the patient's portal. Next, we have reports. And what I'm showing you here, I try to mimic and copy as much as I could from my own healthcare provider. So a lot of what you see here is using my own provider. I've just modified some of the look and feel and the aesthetics of what they have. As the doctor, obviously I can't see the doctor portal, but you'll see the patient portal in just a moment. With the reports, we can see data in aggregate. So we have a distribution across all the patients for test results. I can see how many CT scans, how many MRIs across all the patients. But if I want to hone in on a specific patient, I can filter my data for a specific year. We have appointments by month. And down below, we are grouping our data per patient so that I can expand and collapse each section, see those vital signs, and also see the average per patient. Next, we have messages. We have a communication also to improve patient engagement between the physician and the patient, where we can send messages back and forth. And finally, we have surveys. So that as the either a hospital admin or the physician, we can see how our patients feel about our practice. And the way we're handling the surveys is sending an automatic email with the link to this patient survey form. I'm going to be showing you how this was set up in just a moment. Just keep in mind what we're doing is 5 days after the appointment. And if the appointment is completed, we send an email with the link. So when the patient clicks on that link, they're able to open up the survey form, fill out the form, and then the physician will be able to see that information over here. And last but not least, we have a profile for the physician, which they can update and edit at any time. Now, on the flip side, when I log in as the patient, we're also going to be able to see a calendar layout that shows me all of my appointments with my primary care physician. I can schedule a new appointment. I can see all of my prior visits, including the vital signs and doctor notes. I can see my test results, any CT scans or blood work or MRIs. And I also created this health snapshot, which is just a quick glance at my overall health, where I can see averages for my blood pressure readings, my BMI, weight, temp, and pulse. And just look at what the physician can see, I can also see all of my metrics by visit. So if I wanted to see, compare my weight with my blood pressure readings, I can see and hopefully see a correlation there between my weight and blood pressure, which is fairly common. And then here under Message Center, I can see all the messages from my primary care physician. I can send them a message, and I can also respond to any of the messages that I get. And finally, as the patient, I can see my profile and be able to edit. So that's a quick application. As I mentioned at the beginning of my demo, it took approximately 3 days to build all of this. So somebody with a good amount of technical acumen, a business user or citizen developer who goes through our training and learns how to use the platform should be able to develop something like this very, very quickly. So now let's log into Caspio, and I want to show you some of the platform and how we can modify things. And when you modify those things, how that's affected on the front end. So when you log into Caspio, you're taken to the homepage where you can see the list of all of your applications for different industries. This is the one that we're going to be looking at today. But before I go inside the application, I want you to see how simple it is to begin building an app in Caspio. You click on the button up here, and then you can start by importing data. So if you have an external source, maybe an Excel file or any kind of comma delimited file with your healthcare data, you can import that into Caspio, and then you can build your applications on top of your data, or you can start from a blank template. So once I open up my application, you're going to be able to see these objects on the left-hand side. And these are the objects that our customers use to develop their applications. The one underneath the overview screen is data pages. And data pages are application interfaces that eventually embed into your own intranet or your own website. So all the functionality that we just saw on the website, the calendar, the reports, the submission forms, those are all considered Caspio data pages. I also like to call them widgets. And depending on the size of your application, if you're building something simple, let's say you only need to build a survey form, that's really only going to be one data page. But if you're building something more robust with workflows, you might end up having multiple data pages. So for example, we have a new appointment form to input the appointment. We have a new message form to send a message to the patient. We have reports, we have a calendar, and everything is easily identifiable based on the icon that you see here on the left-hand side. Now, to build a data page in Caspio, you're going to click on this button up here. This is going to launch Caspio's point-and-click data page wizard. There's no coding here. If you look here on the left-hand side, these are all the different types of data pages that you'll be able to develop. Everything from input forms, update forms, reports with different layouts. Here's a tabular layout that I developed on the front end. If I go back to the list of my patients, so here is an example of a tabular layout where we see the data in rows and columns. You can also build calendars. We also got the chance to see a calendar for both the patients and doctors. You can also do a weekly calendar or a monthly calendar. Many different charts that you can create to visually see your data in a visual format. So if you're doing analytics and metrics, you can develop a lot of different types of charts. And finally, an HTML data page. If you're a little bit more tech savvy, you can develop even more sophisticated solutions. So I'm going to cancel out of this and just briefly mention that when you're ready, when you develop your data pages and you're ready to publish the data page to your website, all you're going to do is click on a deploy link, enable deployment status, and then Caspio gives you 4 different deployment methods, with the embed model being the most popular. So all you do is copy a snippet of code, paste that code into your website, and you should be able to see all of these widgets or all of these components seamlessly embed into your own website. The next thing that I want to briefly mention are the tables. So the tables are the foundation of any app that you develop inside Caspio. That's where all of your data is going to reside. I'm going to open up my patients table so that you can see the data and what it looks like inside the table. So very simple, we have rows and columns. If I want to modify my fields, I can go to table design, and from here I can rename a field to something else. I can remove a field, I can add a field, and I can also change the data type depending on what kind of data I wish to store inside my table. I'll go back to my tables menu and just briefly talk about the relationship screen. Caspio is a relational database. So for those of you who have some experience building database tables, maybe an Access database, you're going to feel right at home using Caspio, because we give you a visual schema that you can now see in the backend how all of your tables are linked. So for example, with the patients table, we know that patients can have many visits, they can have many messages, they can have many surveys that they submit, they can also have many appointments. And this is a very simple example of a many-to-many between the doctors and the patients. The next thing that I want to talk about is the task, the one that sends out the email to the patient with the link to the survey. So I want you guys to see how that was done to send a survey email. I'm going to click edit. And what we're doing here is using a Blockly framework to accomplish that task. Tasks are event-based operations. They check against something in the table, against a date, to perform, in this case, sending an email. Now, what I have here is I have to run the task on demand. Normally, if this was a live application, I would have a configuration set up here to run the task daily. So we are running this in the background behind the scenes to check against something in the table. And if it hits that date, for example, or if it meets that criteria, that event will execute. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning of my demo when I was giving you a live example, this task is checking for two conditions. One condition is to check that the appointment status equals to completed. And the second condition is to measure a number of days. So based on the appointment date and today's date, if it equals to 5. So if it's been 5 days after the appointment date, and if the appointment is completed, I should be able to automatically receive that email with the message and also the link that passes the patient ID in order for me to see that survey. So what I'll do is I'll simply run this task on demand so that you can see. I'm going to run that right now. I have my email here on the right-hand side. I'll just wait for the email to come in. But on the front end, what I want you to see is for this patient called Ned, which is myself, I'm the example patient here. You can see that my appointment was on the 20th. Today is the 25th. So it has been 5 days since the appointment. The appointment is completed. So we've met that criteria. And I'll just come over here to my right side and bring in my email into the view so that you can see. Here's the message. And now I can click on that link to open up the survey and let my primary care physician know of how I felt about my visit. And the last thing that I want to show you in today's demo is how we can make a simple change to our data page. And when you make that change, how it's affected on the front end. And what I'm going to be showing you is on the survey side, if I wanted, let's say, the primary care physician to do a simple date range, I want to be able to find all of my surveys from a specific date to a specific date. I want to be able to add those fields here on the front end. So inside Caspio, I'm going to find that data page that I've already developed, which is manage surveys. I'm going to click edit. It's already developed, so I'm going to hit next here. You can see that when it comes to the data source, here's how you link your table back to your data page. So if I want to be able to output my data and see my surveys, naturally I have to select my surveys table so that I can see information from that database table. We'll hit next. I already have my search form created. We're going to hit next. And I'm just going to include my date field inside as my search field. We're going to hit next. And then one thing that I will need to do, I'll just move this field underneath my patient ID field. My patient ID field is a very simple dropdown that looks inside the patient's table, and we're displaying the full name on the front end. That's why here on the front end, you're able to see the patient's name. And now for my date submitted field, very simple way to do a date range. You insert a new criteria. You see 2 additional elements underneath. We want the logical operator to be set to end. Criteria 1 is going to be greater than or equal to. Okay, very simple. And my personal preference is I could have the label outside the field, but my personal preference is to do something like this. I copy my label, I go into the advanced tab, and I like my labels to be inside my fields. That's just my own personal preference. And I will just say from to indicate that this is the from date field, and I will say label position, no label, because I have my label inside as a placeholder field. And then I will also say continue next element on the same line, which is my second criteria. I want everything, all my search fields to be in a single row. And then criteria 2 is going to be less than or equal to do a date range. Again, I'll copy my label. I'll go into the advanced tab, and in the placeholder, I will just simply say 2, and I will say no label. Now I could hit preview to see what my data page looks like even before I go live, just to make sure everything is working correctly. I'm just going to click finish to save my changes. Oh, actually, there's one more thing that I forgot to modify. Let me click edit really quickly. I just want to continue the next element on the same line. So here in the criteria 2, in the advanced tab, I will say continue next element on the same line. We're going to hit finish. And now when I reload my page, I should be able to see all of those fields side by side. And I have a very simple way now to do a date range to be able to find my surveys on a specific date. So that's how easy it is to modify something. Once you get familiar with how Caspio data pages work, tables inside the platform, you too should be able to build these interfaces very, very quickly. Okay, so that was my demo. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. As I mentioned at the very beginning, we are going to be hosting a live stream next month on our YouTube channel. So if you have the time to come in, we're going to be doing a much deeper dive of this application and how all of the components were set up, tables, data pages, and everything else. Thank you for your time. Naveed, on to you.
Thanks, Ned. I'm just going to type in the link to the live stream just in case anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah, and I also sent the link at the very beginning of the demo. So it should be inside a chat window for everyone to click on. Thank you, Naveed.
Yep. Okay, great. So thanks, Ned. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask?
And Naveed, if you just want to take over your screen, just share your screen away from mine. Thanks, Karen. So I do have a question actually that came in. I'm just going to answer that live. Can the survey data be shown in a chart format? Yes. Great question. So you can build any kind of chart based on any type of data that you have. Very helpful if you have numerical data inside a table so that you can do some computations. But I could do a pie chart, I could do a bar chart, I could do a 3D chart if I wanted to see how patients feel about their visit. So how does Caspio work with Zapier? So the way it works, we have 3 different actions that we can perform. So that's another question that came in. When you submit something to a Caspio table, when you update something on the Caspio table, or when you delete something from a Caspio table, you can send that information via Zapier to over 3,000 different applications out there. In today's example, we looked at daily.co, but I've done some videos on our YouTube. If you go to our channel, you'll be able to see how I've integrated Caspio with Slack, MailChimp. Trying to think what other ones I've done. I've done quite a few now. Acuity, I've done that one as well. So if you'd like to see how that was handled, just look up on YouTube, just search for Caspio Zapier, and you'll find a number of different resources on how Caspio can integrate with Zapier in a very, very helpful way. So Naveed, I'm going to let you answer the next question. What type of healthcare sectors does Caspio work with?
Yeah, it's a good question. So currently, based on our customer profile, we've got a lot of who are healthcare providers as well as in academia. So one of the big use cases that we've seen recently was a business called Snap Healthcare, and what they did over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, they had lost like about 70% of their business due to the pandemic. They were understaffed, under pressure to adapt to like those changes. So they were able to build a very complex process in order to handle vaccination, scheduling appointments, follow-ups, and really streamline that entire process when it came to COVID-19. So we do a lot of provider to patient relationship work. We do education, institutional healthcare, and work with hospitals, urgent care. So today we were just really talking about, the provider-patient relationship, but the possibilities are pretty endless. I mean, healthcare is pretty broad, but we do a lot in hospitals and urgent care. So we have another question about, does Caspio sign a BAA for HIPAA compliance? The answer is yes.
Yes. So I do have another question that came in. So it looks like the question is there a way to automate the import process of our data? Yes, Caspio does have a data hub feature, which allows you to even set and control the frequency, how often you want that data to be imported into Caspio. And we work with a lot of different repositories. You can have an FTP client, Google Drive, Dropbox. So if you have your files and you're sending those files to an FTP site or Dropbox or Google Drive, Caspio knows to go there securely, fetch the new data, and append that data to your existing table. So that way in the morning, all of your data is always fresh and you don't have to do any of that manual labor to import the data. Good question. Another one that came in, let me take a look. Can Caspio output applications on a tablet? Yeah, so everything is browser-based. So even, I don't mind sharing my screen again if, just to show you that really quickly. I'll just share my screen here for a moment, just to show you that even if you change the size of the browser, everything is responsive to fit any device. If it's mobile or tablet, you can see how all the components will cascade based on the width of the screen. So if you go full screen mode, everything goes back to full size. So the answer is yes, except you cannot build native applications, but everything can be browser-based, which to me, it's also very valuable because you could bookmark the URL back as an icon on your phone or your tablet. And when you click on that icon, it opens up the browser instead of a native application. All right, Naveed. So
hey,
I will.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't think I shared, I apologize. I don't think I was sharing my screen when I was showing how, when you change the width of the application. So let me just do that very quickly. If you change the width of the browser, you will see how, as I said, how all the components will automatically conform to the width of the browser. So if you expand full mode, you can see how everything changes to fit that, to fit the parameters of that window.
Yeah, thanks, Ned. Okay, cool. Does anyone else have any other questions? Last one. Okay, last one. How to learn more. Great. So the follow-up from here on is that we're going to send a webinar recording and give some links. If you want to follow up with a project consultation, we're going to give all that information in the follow-up. So how to get a free project consultation, how to learn more. We'll give links to the webinar as well as additional resources so that you can also continue on your no-code journey. Great. So any other questions about what we talked about? Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We hope you got some great takeaways from the webinar. So like I mentioned before, we're going to be sharing the recording. You'll get an email from us with information about project consultation, free project consultations, as well as other additional resources. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So with that, hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Take care, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a good one.
See ya.